Returning to today's top story, the jury in Donald Trump's historic hush money trial has found him guilty on all counts of falsifying business records. This makes Trump the first former president ever convicted of a felony. Essentially, it's unprecedented. Whether or not this will have any impact on the November election, there is also Australia's alliance with the US to consider. Sky News Washington correspondent Annelise Nielsen joins me now to break all of that down. Annelise, thank you for your time. What happened in court?
Erin, by the end of the day, it appeared that the jury was going to leave at 4:30. It's what the judge warned the court, that he was going to dismiss them for the day, but then the message came back that they'd reached their verdict. The reports we have from people who were in the room was that when the verdict came through, that there were gasps, that Donald Trump didn't give too much away, but didn't look very happy either. And one of the other aspects to this was the fact that we found out 34 counts of guilty. And don't forget, in America, jurors can talk about the verdict afterwards. They can be interviewed. They can, in some jurisdictions, take money for interviews for what they heard and decided on in the jury room. So there is the likelihood we could have information come out. And of course, any of that could lead to grounds for appeal. We do expect that Donald Trump's legal team will be mounting an appeal. There was a last-ditch effort from Trump's defense attorneys in the courtroom to try to have the case thrown out again, saying that Cohen's evidence shouldn't have been allowed in the first place, but Judge Merchant didn't allow that.
So what happens now?
So now Donald Trump's been released on bail. It was a bail on recognizance, which means that there was no need for money to be put up or any kind of collateral. Essentially, he would have had to sign a form saying that he would attend for those further appearance dates. And the next date has been set for July 11. So July 11 is only 4 days before the start of the Republican National Convention, which ends with Donald Trump being formally nominated as the Republican presidential candidate. A number of Republicans have come out today in support of Donald Trump, condemning this trial, and it appears that nothing will stop that, even a conviction. What we do anticipate in this hearing is more likely than not there won't be any kind of jail time attached to this. What the prosecutors did do successfully was raise these charges to a felony level. So essentially what they've said was that the concealing of these payments was done in the furtherance of a crime. And what the direction was from the judge, which is likely to be a part of the grounds of appeal, was that the jurors didn't have to agree on which crime was being advanced by this. They could agree that some of them could say maybe it was tax covering up. Some of them could say it was election interference or another reason. But all they had to agree was that this was done deliberately to conceal another crime. It's more likely he'd get some kind of probationary sentence, but he is now a convicted felon.
Trump still has 3 more, I think, criminal cases to deal with. Is this essentially a sign of things to come?
So Donald Trump does have his other legal cases, but the wheels are falling off each of them. So if we look at the Florida case, it has been absolutely bogged down in the administration of it. And one of the biggest issues they've faced is trying to figure out how to get all of these highly classified documents into evidence to the point where a jury could look at them. The Georgia case has been bogged down in issues with the prosecutor there and the issues of her affair with someone she brought in on the trial. And so there's been issues around continuing with that. The January 6th case in Washington, D.C. has stalled. So really, this is quite likely the only one that will run before the presidential election. Donald Trump is polling ahead of Joe Biden at the moment. Once he becomes president presumptive, if that's what happens, or president-elect, it's a completely different ballgame, and no one's really going to know how to deal with this. And quite likely, these would just all fall by the wayside.
What impact do you think this will have on Trump's campaign to the White House? It doesn't seem to have hurt him yet.
There's nothing to stop Donald Trump running for president as a felon. He can run it from a jail cell if that happens. He can win from a jail cell if that were to happen. And if anything, it emboldens his followers, because he's been saying, I'm being persecuted and they're coming after me and you're next.
Thank you very much, Annelise Nielsen there over in the United States.